Hi. Okay. So, um, I am on the internet a lot, and I'm not gonna do an introduction. I'm just jumping right in. Well, a little bit of an introduction, but basically, I'm just jumping right in. Um, because I'm scared, a little nervous, not scared, a little nervous, to do YouTube. Um, First video, I figured be easier just to do something. Um, but basically, quick little introduction. I lied. Um, I watch a lot of YouTube videos. I'm on the internet a lot, and I've been thinking lately it'd be fun to make them, right? But I've been procrastinating it and putting it off and putting it off and putting it off, and I'm waving a pencil around. That's what that is. I'm putting it off and putting it off, right? Um, because I thought I don't have the right equipment. I don't know how to do it. I don't know what to talk about. All kinds of stupid stuff. Um, and so I thought, you know what? I'm just gonna jump into it. I'm just gonna start. Um, and the biggest tipping point was I was watching a few Veritasing videos, and one of them inspired me. Two of them inspired me. One of them talked about life is more about being in the right place. Success is more about being in the right place than it is about skill or ability and just doing things. Um, but the other one, the guy who did Veritasium, he says, who does Veritasium, he said in one of his videos, he hears about a lot of people who procrastinate. They want to do YouTube, but they keep putting it off and saying no, or I'll do it later, all that other stuff. And he said, just do it. Just start. And maybe I'm misinterpreting or misquoting, and this isn't what he meant, but he just start. And then once you started, make it better. Start making it better. Work on content. Work on quality. Work on update time. Work on whatever you're doing. But first, just start. Just put stuff out there. Just it doesn't have to be good. Just start. Just rough draft it. Just and see what works. See what doesn't work. Start to break things apart. And so I was just like, you know what? I'm just gonna do it. I'm just gonna ramble. I'm just gonna talk, and it's just gonna be terrible. And this is my fourth take because my first two I couldn't understand what I was saying because I was using a microphone that's in like this headset earpiece, but the microphone's apparently broken. Didn't know. And I couldn't understand what I was saying the entire time. And the third one, I rambled way more than I thought I should, which I'm doing again, and I should stop. Basically, I want to talk about geography and air some annoyances that I'm going to seize this odd forum to discuss, and I'm going to do it. Okay, geography. I sketched a map, and it's not good. I'm not an artist. It's not a skill that I've developed in myself. But it's passable. Maybe. Here's the world. Well, no. Here's a flat representation of a globe drawn not to scale at all. Okay? Few things that I'm least proud of. That's Australia. That's not what Australia looks like. Australia is not a cube. Australia is a really weird horseshoe type shape thing. Kind of. Asia looks funny. This is all supposed to be like the Thailand um and all those other countries that I'm forgetting the name of, Cambodia and such. Thailand and Cambodia and those countries. And then this is supposed to be Japan and Indonesia and the Philippines and all of that. It's not very good. I got England really good though. England and Scotland and Ireland, the UK, British Isles area. I did that all right. But basically, here's the maps. This is the Americas and Africa and Europe and Asia and Australia and all that. The first grievance. I was in a psychology class, and there was this girl, and she was a cheerleader. And she filled the cheerleader stereotype. It's not to say that all cheerleaders do. I dated another cheerleader at a different time who didn't. She was very intelligent. But this girl was not the smartest girl I've ever met. She was not the most informed. She was certainly good at other things. She was sweet. She was kind. She was funny, but she wasn't the best, most well informed. And I read a comic in XKCD that talked about not ridiculing people for not knowing things, because people learn new stuff all the time, and you're gonna have those moments where you feel dumb because you don't know something that all adults should know by the time they're an adult and all that stuff. Um, she thought China was a continent, and I almost laughed, and I tried very hard not to. Uh, but like, really, no, China's not a continent; it's a country. And she said, "Well, what's a continent?" And I said, "Well, okay, the world's divided into 7 large pieces of land that we call continents. We've just arbitrarily decided, hey, let's divide it like this." And it's not all arbitrary. There are reasons. For instance, Europe is divided from Asia by the Ural Mountains. The Americas are actually 2 real land masses. Africa is its own land mass. Australia's like a really big island. Like, it's seriously completely separate. But basically, we've divided the world into these 7 places we call continents, and they tend to be kind of culturally related. Some of them share, for the most part, a lot of religion, a lot of language, or at least linguistic roots, a lot of that kind of stuff, right? Because they were more isolated during their development, than the countries that were in them as they were developing. For instance, a lot of Asia and Europe didn't mix until much later. In large part, nobody knew about the Americas from Europe. Africa is still a developing country, even though a lot of the world has started to move on or is moving on. Africa's still very heavily developing. That's what continents are. They're basically just pieces of land that are divided, big pieces of land, and we call them separate continents. She said, okay. Then what is China? Is China not a continent? And I said, no, China's a country. It's in Asia. Okay? And I'll show you. So let's start with the one that a lot of... Okay, I hate to make generalizations, but this one's more true. A lot of people from the US are the ones who are bad at geography. Partially because we're so big, partially because we've got this weird superiority complex thing that kind of annoys me sometimes. And I even fall victim to it sometimes because it's just so pervasive in the society in small ways that I don't even notice sometimes. But basically, I'm going to start with the United States, is what I'm saying, because a lot of the people who have trouble with geography have less trouble here. Here's the US, right? We're big. Not as big as Russia or some other country, but we're a big country. Here's like Florida, and like California would be like over here, like West Coast, East Coast, Canada up here, South America, Middle America. So like Mexico's going to be here. You can have like Argentina down here. Chile is here. I might have that backwards. Now that I think about it, I don't know. Brazil. They speak Portuguese. They don't speak Spanish. Brazil doesn't. People in Brazil, they speak Portuguese because they were conquered by Portugal, while the rest of them were conquered by Spain. And then Canada was conquered by France, and this was conquered by Spain, and then taken by America and England. And I'm not going to get into that here. These all speak Spanish. Everyone from here is not Mexican. That will really bother somebody from, say, Puerto Rico or Argentina. If you call them Mexican, it annoys them, and it should annoy them. It's not a good thing. It's kind of racist. Not racist. Ethno. I don't know. I can't think of the word anymore. But it's bad. It's wrong to just make that assumption. Here's Africa. There's like Somalia. You heard of like Somalian pirates, right? There. There's like Egypt's over here. You know what I mean? South Africa. You got like And as I said, I can't name all the countries in Africa for some reason, which is probably not good, but I just can't off the top of my head. I mean, I know there's like the Democratic Republic of Congo, there's like, all these other countries and all this other stuff, but I can't name them off the top of my head. Interesting fact, more languages in this continent than any other continent in the world. And I'm tempted to say several continents combined. Like, there's a lot of languages. Like, I think there was one country that has like over 400 different dialects and languages. Like, it's crazy. Okay, Europe, right? There's like England, and I'm more familiar with Europe than I am Africa. But there's like, like England and Scotland, Ireland, like the United Kingdom, this kind of stuff's up here. Spain, Portugal, France, Italy, Greece, like the Netherlands and Sweden and Finland and all that stuff up here, and like Switzerland. And there's Russia, which is huge, all that stuff. Asia is this big continent. It's big, right? Not quite as big as Africa, which is not drawn to scale, so don't judge it here. China, right? And like Thailand and Cambodia and Malaysia? Is that the one I'm looking for? Anyway, there's like Indonesia and like Philippines, and there's like up here there should be like a little thing shooting off that's like North and South Korea. And there's Japan over here. China's big. China's got a lot of people. It's a big country. It's not a continent. That's the point of the video. China is not a continent. Asia is a continent. China's a country. There's Australia. Australia is both a continent and a country. Okay? There's the country of Australia. There's a continent of Australia. It's kind of weird, but when you're the only country on a giant mass of land, you can be both. And there's New Zealand. And sometimes this continent is called like the Pacific Islands, and it gets a little confusing because there's a lot of little islands that are in the Pacific, and they kind of want to group them all together. And those little islands, like oftentimes the more will say that Australia is a continent, but really it should probably be the Pacific Islands. Anyway, I don't think I missed any. North America, South America, Africa, Europe, Asia, Australia. There is Antarctica down there at the bottom. That's that little line. It's just kind of a frozen wasteland, and countries aren't allowed to own it, which is why the common question, who owns Antarctica? We're not allowed to own it. It's for the scientific... and I can't remember the wording, but basically it's for scientific advancement. You're not allowed to own it. As opposed to the North Pole. Oops. Dropping my camera. As opposed to the North Pole, which is allowed to be owned by people and exploited by people. And that's why we have much more exploration of the North Pole, because there's competition there. And scientific advancement comes from the North Pole because we can compete there and we can actually own stuff there and people want to be there, as opposed to Antarctica. But those are basically the 7 continents, and I have taken YouTube and used it as a way to air my grievances against the lack of knowledge about geography. Know the continents. You don't have to know where all the countries are. It's good to know where the countries are. It's probably makes you more cultured and seem more intelligent. But it's I mean, you don't have to know what Croatia borders. And I mean, you should probably know where like Poland is, but you don't have to know that like the Vatican City is a country and that Luxembourg is really tiny and all these other things. But know your continents. Know where they are. Be able to point to them on a globe. It's important. I think it is. And I hope that I've made you a little more intelligent, and that the sound of my own voice hasn't driven. I'm going with droven. Hasn't driven you crazy at all. And I hope you enjoyed this video. And maybe more like it will come out. We'll see what happens. I might actually just, because I'm really in the jive of just talking, because I like to talk, I might just produce a bunch right now of me just talking and just throw them out on the internet, like internet throw up. And none of it will be very good, but it'll be fun. Maybe somebody will enjoy it. I don't know. But it'll be like this. And I'll see you next time.